Hey everyone, welcome back to RLCS Overtime. My name's Axel Toss, and it's the off-season of the RLCS, but there's still plenty to talk about in the Rocket League scene. Very happy to be joined by Finable Carpet. We got James Bott, we got Quinn Lobdell over here, and gentlemen, I want to focus in on you guys, because you were both at a pretty iconic event.
Oh, yes?
This past weekend.
That is true.
Dreamhack Atlanta, picking up Rocket League in a big way. A lot of great teams there. And in the offseason of RLCS right now, we're trying to figure things out. There's a lot of rosters trying to come together as teams are preparing for the RLCS that's incoming. And it's fun to see how all these teams are balancing, and especially the storyline, look out, of North America versus Europe. So guys, I want to get your experience about Dreamhack Atlanta. Honestly, the event in general, Dreamhack starting in Europe, coming over to North America, throwing a huge LAN party for everyone to attend. How's the event, guys?
Well, the first one we went to, I was there, I was in Sweden, I wasn't casting, you weren't there, but we got to watch it. Flipside taking that one down, it was a lot of fun. But this one in Atlanta, this was the most stacked tournament that I maybe have ever seen. Like, even the World Championships.
There's no team in the Rocket League community that was not there. At least anyone.
It was like 85% of the top 32
Yeah,
teams
it was really
there.
crazy.
It was
and the amount of upsets and like matches and just surprises that were going on, it was great.
And a lot of hype leading up to this tournament as well. And Carpet, I want to ask you, how hyped are you coming into the Dreamhack and seeing the teams that are going to be involved in attending this live event?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about it a lot before, especially here on Overtime. I love seeing these intermittent, like, solo tournaments in between the seasons, watching how these rosters are starting to fulfill. A lot of teams that we have hope for going into Season 4 are usually, we just like, that roster sounds great. I wonder how they perform. But now we actually start to get to see them grow, or maybe vice versa. Certain teams that we're all hoping for are not doing as well as we want. For me, it's just really cool to watch the teams start to feel themselves before the big qualifiers.
And effectively, it's open to anyone, which produces awesome competition for our purposes. So
because the rival teams, like the rival series, which we were coming out with, which is the 8 below the championship series teams, events like this is where they really have that opportunity to go head-to-head, toe-to-toe with these giants. And we saw that even with Ambition eSports. They were a huge surprise in the tournament, making it all the way to that round of 8. So it was really cool seeing that.
Well, let's get into the groups here. And something we want to emphasize here is we had all the teams from Europe, a lot of the top teams coming over to America to compete in this. They just participated in the X Games, so a lot staying in town. But here's a look at the groups. Now, it was open to anyone tournament, and this essentially broke down into 2 rounds of group play, a round of 32 groups, and this is the round of 16 group play. Guys, give me your impressions about these groups, how it played out. These are your final 16 teams in that tournament.
Yeah, so obviously that first group, it got rid of a lot of the fluff in the tournament. This top 16, that was really stacked. If you go back and you were looking at that graphic, pool number 3 was the pool of death. It had G2, Envious, and Rogue, and Set to Destroy all in that group. That was the group of death, really.
The craziest thing was that Set to Destroy, a team that we saw last season in RLCS not do so hot, they came out here guns blazing and brought so many teams, so many upsets, so many teams to the Game 5 that everybody was like, whoa.
And they knocked out Rogue, too.
I mean, it was unbelievable to see like so many great teams in Rocket League, both in EU and North America, face each other. Teams that we would never get to see face each other on an average day or in the RLCS unless you're on that main stage.
And anything can happen in an open environment, but the way Dreamhack kind of unraveled was a lot of the top teams ended up advancing far. Let's take a look at the top 8 bracket. Now, from this point, it turned into a single elimination event, and this is where all those storylines started to unfold. And what an amazing final day there, where we saw the Muffin Men actually advance on to take the victory over Gale Force eSports. But guys, let's talk about this round of 8 bracket.
Yeah, this one, again, was a super tough. Like this right here, you have 4 EU teams going up against 4 NA teams, and those arguably the 4 best teams in Europe. And then you have NRG, Muffin Men. A lot of people think they're rising. Rogue was the big surprise of not being there, but still this round of 8, even just making it to the semis was huge. But NRG getting beat by the Muffin Men, that was one of the biggest upsets because you're expecting NRG to go so far.
Yeah, we saw at the X Games, NRG, like the performance of, I mean, their careers at least, the first time a North American team has won a LAN event since the first RLCS, and really well done to them, but we all expected them to carry that great form just 1 week later here at Dreamhack or over in Atlanta, and I mean, they did it on the first day, but on the second day when we got to this top 8, it was crazy to see Muffin Men just absolutely upset them. Didn't drop a single game in that series. They destroyed NRG.
And that's particularly interesting when you consider, especially the live event experience for both these 2 teams. You have NRG, historically in RLCS, your regional champions every single season for North America. And then the question always became, okay, how are they going to do in that live setting? Well, in the most recent season championships, in LA, they actually did really well. So then coming in, going up against the Muffin Men, who have not really had live event experience, able to shut them out.
Right. Two of the players on Muffin Man have never even been to Atlanta. That's Gimmick and Squishy Muffins. Torment, the only one with any experience whatsoever.
But this was such a critical factor for Muffin Men to get out on the right foot. You see, this was such a moment where it went for the Muffin Men. That 0-second goal off the backboard, taking that game one, it could have been such a different story. But the Muffin Men, they just came out hot. And if you are maybe wondering, like, who even are the Muffin Men? Maybe you don't remember that name. That was Iris. It's pretty much Iris without Lucinio.
Right.
And they had a dismal qualifier last season. Everyone expecting them to do so well, them not even making it, but everyone had them pegged at like #1 or #2. And so this was kind of like their big coming out party. So again, the pressure's going to be on them coming into season 4. But in this Dreamhack, they were lights out, especially with Gimmick. Gimmick, I thought, played amazingly.
Yeah, there was never a moment watching the Muffin Men that I ever thought they were in danger of dropping a series. They took every teams with so much more experience than them. We forget that this Muffin Men roster, I mean, it's Torment and Squishy Muffins at its core. They've been practicing all throughout that season after they didn't qualify for RLCS, and that's huge. Most teams just split up and do not stick together. They stuck together. They even tried out a few different thirds leading up into
They tried out so many people other than Gimmick. They're like, Gimmick, you're their starter. No, we're going to try someone else out. Okay, Gimmick, you have the starting role again? No, we're going to try Dapper. Gimmick, you have the starting role again. He comes in, and he was probably the surprise of the tournament for me in terms of like relatively unknown players stepping up to the plate. Another name that comes to mind is Dude with the Nose. He had a really good tournament.
What a performance from Dude with the Nose. He was like mind gaming Flipside left and right. We just watched Cucks and Marky go right past him, and he's just like swerving around him. It was crazy.
But Gimmick definitely, he takes the cake for like standout player who's coming in with not a lot of high level experience in terms of tournaments like this. So Muffin Men right out of the gate, 3-0ing NRG. That was the start that really got people looking at that.
And we talk about momentum all the time, especially in a live setting, and we'll see in a second how that panned out for them. But let's move on to the next match that happened just below that. The Muffin Men would play the winner of Flipside going up against G2. So many storylines around these two teams. Flipside, the iconic team from Europe, and then G2. It's always which G2 is going to show up. We saw them do so well at the Summer Series. We saw them do not so well at the X Games. Enter Dreamhack Atlanta. I think they had a pretty good tournament overall.
Yeah, and even this series versus Flipside, I didn't think the reason Flipside lost was necessarily because they were playing so poorly. I just thought G2, they played very well. You know, it's not that this, you know, we always expect Flipside to be dominant, but G2 has shown time and time again that they're really good. And that play, that air dribble from Kronovi, that was a sick moment for them.
I mean, G2 really, what surprised me the most was usually we talk about it all the time, how one player will show up every time we see them on a tournament. We saw them at the Brisk Summer Series, and we talked about how in the final, G2, all three of the players turned on at the same time, and that's why we saw such a dominant performance over NRG. And then we look at this tournament here at Dreamhack, and then we see them all just from the very get-go ready to play. They came out practicing. They boot camped hard.
You could tell that they were playing well. And Flipside, they were the defending champions of Dreamhack. They won Dreamhack Summer over in Yeonjaping. And so for G2 to come out, this was a big win for them. This win, even though they didn't win the tournament, that was a big win for their confidence.
What I love about G2 is some of the plays they pull off for me are almost like benchmarks of where the Rocket League skill has gotten. And then next week I see them and they can't do it. And I think consistency, we talked about it so many times. I don't want to keep bringing it up. It's really boring. Consistency is huge right now with people performing well in Rocket League.
You should be consistent about bringing up consistency, Carpet.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, if you, Carpet's right, though. Carpet is right, though. You talk about consistency. NRG, even though they went out in the round of 8, it's still a good performance with the teams that we saw there. NRG is consistent. Muffin Men, they failed to qualify last season, and now they look like the best team in the world.
But who knows?
Can they carry that through into season 4? Because they haven't qualified. They still got to get through qualifiers to get into the next season.
Nobody's qualified yet.
No one.
Except NRG and Rogue.
Oh, yeah, okay, fair.
For NA
and Flipside Northern.
Yep.
More on that later. But this moved us into G2. This moved us into G2 versus the Muffin Men, North America versus North America, meaning we have an automatic team in the finals from North America. And the Muffin Men came through.
When you said this was the best series that you've seen in your life, I mean, you might have said that after every series.
Yeah. Well, those games were hype. I mean, it was like every match we saw. You mentioned earlier, the Flipside G2 match was a great match. And then all of a sudden, we see Muffin Men versus G2, and nobody expects this Muffin Men team to really kind of come out and just deal with G2 the way they did. We saw G2 playing so well. We saw them knock out one of the world's best teams historically in Rocket League and the defending Dreamhack champion, right? Flipside Tactics. And then out of nowhere, Muffin Men are like, look, G2, sorry.
Dude, I know.
Sucks to suck. We're taking this one.
But I don't think they sucked. That was a really fun game. That was a fun series to watch. It was 4-2, but then that intense overtime, that like 5-minute overtime. Sorry, 5-minute overtime. That series. It was great to watch. It didn't go to Game 7, but it felt so neck and neck.
The best part about that match is that neither team ever was having a dull moment. They were never making mistakes mechanically, or there were no like just typical errors that you see in a match where it's like, okay, they had ups and downs. There were no downs for either team. It was the slightest errors or mistakes, or even just predictions and reads from the other teams is what let them get the lead in the games. And so you were just seeing great play after great play and watching how each team dealt with it. And it was just like, you could see there was so much intention behind the Rocket League, and that's why I thought for me that was one of the best series.
Like even though G2 lost, they know they played well in that series. Like if that overtime game went differently, it could have been a different story.
Guys, I'm feeling like at live events finals, like the final day, no matter what in Rocket League right now, regardless of North America, regardless of Europe, every match just comes down to like the final moments where this level of play at these tournaments is just so amazing, and these teams are so evenly matched that for us it's amazing.
Well, Gibbs actually tweeted it out. He said 4 different LANs, 4 different teams won, 11 different players taking down a LAN championship. So, it's parity. He said it's parity. I agree with it.
Yeah, I love it. So that brings us to the finals. Now, on the other side, we saw Gale Force versus Envious. That's quickly becoming a rivalry in the European region. It happened at the X Games. Gale Force barely won. It happened at Dreamhack. Gale Force barely won. And this pushes Gale Force into the grand finals where they're like, all right, we're probably going to play Flipside, maybe G2. But no! It's the Muffin Men in the finals from North America going up against the Titans from Europe, Gale Force, and it goes all the way to 7 games.
We couldn't have asked for a better final, coming down all the way to the final second. We didn't see it, but the last goal too was that own goal from K-Dop. But it was that one mistake, like you're saying, when you've got these teams that are so close together, it's just those one mistakes that can make a difference. And I just love it though. Like we have this big, huge tournament, and the team that wins is called the Muffin Men. Hopefully people aren't reading the articles being like, what kind of teams does Rocket League have?
You know, it was actually hilarious. Some guy made a little sign in the front. It says the Muffin Men, and he had like a little muffin, and he was just like, because they were having,
it was like the size of a bottle cap.
I know,
it was the worst muffin ever.
I mean, a team that hasn't been signed. They were the only unsigned team in the tournament, and boy, did they impress. So, I mean, expect them to be getting picked up.
They're not going to be free agents for very long.
And, you know, thinking about that too, what I love is like, if you're watching from home, you're watching these tournaments and you're like, whoa, the Muffin Men, they can come up with a team and do it. This team from North America, it doesn't matter what region you're in at this point. If you're not playing Rocket League, get on, play, hey, and maybe you can be good enough to make a competitive run in these deep tournaments. That's what these open tournaments are about. That's what Dreamhack was about, and it certainly gave us an awesome show and an awesome experience as a spectator. So guys, any final thoughts on Dreamhack Atlanta and reflections?
Yeah, I would say if you didn't watch it, definitely go back and watch it. It was twitch.tv/Dreamhack Rocket League. Go check it out. Those series, if you're going to only catch one of the streams, just watch the final day, Championship Sunday, because those series were electric.
Yeah, I mean, the games were so incredibly close. It's like, you don't really get Rocket League between two teams. I mean, we saw so many blowouts, even in X Games. Even in the RLCS, you see blowouts all the time. It's just because on a different day, you never know how a team is going to show up. And at Dreamhack, every team showed up big time.
Carvet, final thoughts on Dreamhack?
It was great. It was great.
There you go. That was awesome. Congrats to the Muffin Men, your Dreamhack Atlanta champions. How are they going to do leading into RLCS Season 4? A lot of eyes going to be on them. Is a big team going to come pick them up? Maybe. We'll see what happens. But we're going to take a break here from RLCS Overtime, and we'll be back with more awesome content and commentary on the RLCS scene. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.